The UK is not well known for its mountains, but what we lack in altitude we more than make up for in rugged beauty. And there are a few places quite as rugged and as beautiful as Eryri in North Wales. This national park is over 2,000 square kilometres with 9 distinct mountain ranges and over 90 peaks among them. It is not an easy place to ride a bike, but that is what I've signed up for, and more specifically the Traws Eryri, a 200-kilometre long route that traverses the area from south to north. And to spice it up even more, I'm going to try and do it in one day. One very long, very hard, and by necessity quite fast day. Here we are then, 7 a.m. in Conwy, which is the start town of the Traws Eryri. I feel massively underprepared, if I'm being completely honest. To give you an idea of just how unprepared, I only found out that this route is 200 kilometres and not 160 kilometres late last week. But hey, what's 40k between friends? Probably quite a lot, actually, when there's 4,500 metres of climbing involved. But anyway, like I'm cramming for some exam, I thought I would take some final moments to read the guidebook. Some highlights for you, okay? So the Traws Eryri is shorter than most of Cycling UK's other multi-distance routes in terms of distance, but don't underestimate it. The sheer amount of extended steep climbing, exhilarating off-road descending makes this route a properly challenging adventure, intended for 4 or 5 days. Okay, then it's been designed with mountain bikes in mind, with steep gradients and loose rock surfaces, which will certainly be enjoyed most with low gears and big tyres. Okay, I feel like I've kind of ticked that box. Some sections are quite rough and rocky, which adds a level of technical difficulty to a few of the descents, particularly in wet conditions. Make sure you have a bike and gear that you feel confident with. Okay, check. Definitely got that. And there's also the option to get off and push if you don't feel comfortable. See about that. Let's do it. Last bit of bike prep before kicking off. As you can see, I've got the brand new SRAM Red Access Explore group set and Zip 303 Explore wheels on here. It's kit that really pushes the boundaries of what gravel is and can be, which is why when we partnered up for a video, this was the route that I really wanted to do, okay? So you want the fastest kit out there, you want the lightest kit out there, and then you also need something that's super capable for when the boundaries are blurring between gravel and mountain bike. So I've got 13 gears on the back here, so an even wider range of gears than previously. And then plus these wheels are super wide as well, which is perfect for when you're running low pressures for comfort and speed off-road as well. And also, they've been designed to reduce pinch flats, which hopefully will come in handy because it is pretty savage up here. Right, I've actually had a look. The SRAM Axis tyre pressure calculator says I need to be running 24 PSI up front and 25 in the back. I'm going to leave it there actually, and then just see if I need to drop it any further after the first descent of the day. Let's see what I've got. That is the official start point, so it's go time. I'm feeling nervous, I'll be honest, but I cannot wait for this. I'm so excited. Right, see you on the road. Rolling out of town, a sense of unbridled joy, frankly, cracking on an adventure like this. It's so different to like a bike race or something like that, where right now I'd be super nervous and kind of exhilarated in a different way, but this is just brilliant. The first 35k of this route is tarmac. And I was thinking, oh, you'd be fine, just tick it off, it's like a warm-up. But it is actually quite hard, tarmac. There's some proper walls. I'm just trying to save my legs as much as possible. You might be wondering why I'm trying to do this in a day. And it is a good question, right? Because you could definitely savor the landscape more if you took more time on it. You'd definitely be able to stop more and sample pubs and cafes. And that is definitely true. I'm not saying this is the best way of doing it, but there is something so mind-blowing about covering a big distance on a bike. It's like a sensory overload. The amount you see in a day is just brilliant. Plus, I love having a target. So I mean, this is not a race. I'm not going for the FKT. I'm not going for the FKT because I saw what it was, just over 9 hours by Methven Bond, and I haven't got that in me. But I can definitely string together a decent ride. FKTs are also, they're a little bit controversial in the UK. Depends if you define an FKT as racing or not, because you're not allowed to race off-road on public bridleways and stuff. Whereas on a road, bikes are near the bottom of the food chain. Off-road, we're at the top. We're the equivalent of cars. And so it's our duty to look after walkers, pedestrians, horse riders, whatever. So irrespective of whether you're trying to go for an FKT or you're just pooling along with your mates, you gotta be responsible. Been riding for an hour now, and like clockwork, the doubts have set in. And this is something I'm quite familiar with, having done a few of these, but essentially you get going and then you start worrying about whether or not you're able to do it, whether or not you're going to be fast enough, whether or not your knee hurts or your bum hurts. Now, my bum never hurts after an hour in the saddle, but today I'm worrying about it. And so you've effectively got to give yourself a bit of a talking to and just crack on, because you know it'll be all right. Experience tells you it'll be all right, but nevertheless, the dropout rate at the beginning of self-supported adventures is so high. And I think it is just that overwhelm to begin with. The first climb was a real sign of things to come. It was a brute. So again, on tarmac, but really steep. I was in my easiest gear, like spinning gently away in 40, 46. But it gives you an indication of just how savage the road was. And it takes you away from sea level, right up over the shoulder of Coed-y-Brenin, which is the most southerly of the mountains in Eryri. I think that the height of it is 893 meters, so it's not a whopper, but when you see it from sea level, it's a pretty significant beast. Fortunately, we didn't have to go to the very top. We sort of went over the shoulder, and the road just stops and gives way to this beautiful gravel trail, absolutely incredible. But then the view as you sort of crested the shoulder and looked down over the next phase of the route, which was the Mawddach estuary, and then over onto the next range of mountains, which are the Rhinogs. And you could just see this amazing trail, definitely upgraded from gravel to pretty chunky rock. Chunky, that is. Yeah, boy! Woo-hoo-hoo! So safely dropped down to the Mawddach estuary, and that was phase one complete for me. And again, still absolutely buzzing at this point. I don't think it could have looked more beautiful. The sun was out, the tide was in, I had a roaring tailwind and just was able to just effortlessly cruise down this beautiful riverside path. And having ticked off a good 50 kilometres already and the first big challenge, morale was high. Morale got even higher when I went over a little toll bridge, this Grade 2 listed historic wooden bridge across the estuary, and it turned out that the guy there at the toll booth was a GCN fan and paid my toll for me. Morning, morning.
How you going?
All right, thanks.
I know you from somewhere, don't I?
Might do.
GCN YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
Do bikes pay? Let's go across.
30p, but you can have it for nothing. I'll put it in for you. There you
Thank you very much.
go. Thanks for the channel.
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you. Cheers, mate.
Enjoy. See you later.
Wow, how good is that? Spring in my step. But then very quickly, reality set in as we tackled the next, so that the second big challenge. Second mountain range of the day. It's a big climb. So we're going up for 7 kilometres. Half of it's been on road, which I thought would be nice and easy. But it's super steep. I was looking down at my head unit and it said I was going 5k an hour, which is pretty slow. After quite some time, the forest sort of began to close in, and having had these amazing views and ticking off all these milestones, suddenly it began to get really frustrating because at no point did I ever feel like I was making any real progress. It was just forest track after forest track. On these kind of really long rides, like, your morale is so important, and you know it goes up and down. And at that point, it was properly on a down. I've been in here for hours. I think I'm making good progress because I'm still pedaling and I haven't stopped, but I have no sense of it whatsoever because this is Coed-y-Brenin. It's quite a famous mountain bike spot, and it's a huge forest, and this beautiful fire road has just been snaking its way through now, and there's no views, no nothing. There's just a lot of forest. Eventually the conifers started to get a little bit sparser, a little bit smaller. They went from like giant conifers to Christmas tree size. But finally, I made it out of Coed-y-Brenin. Two mountain ranges crossed now then, and I feel like that's quite a big chunk ticked off now. But I haven't looked at the distance yet. I kind of don't want to, if I'm honest. I don't think I'm halfway yet, but that's okay. I've been riding for 4 hours, so, and I've not really stopped yet. I haven't had a coffee yet, if I'm honest. So I'll save that for when I need the afterburners later on. Okay, that's my GoPro. Three milestones ticked off at this point, all of which I'm delighted about. So this is the highest point of the ride. I think we were just at over 500 meters. Thankfully, the climb up here was all tarmac and all tailwind, which was absolutely brilliant. This is also the halfway point, which, well, I'm on 5 hours, 5 minutes of riding time, so it could be worse. And then the other point is it marks the the transition from the south part of the route to the north part of the route. So we're heading right into kind of the heart of Snowdonia now, and surrounded by the biggest mountains. But the very next bit, I'm not massively looking forward to. I've seen it on the map. It's just very squiggly in forests. So after the last bit of squiggly forest, yeah, I don't know, it'll be all right. We'll get it done. Okay, right. That was me putting the camelback hose away. I'm out of water in there, so that's 2 litres done. I'm gonna have to stop some supplies pretty soon, actually. It's fine, don't worry. This is the bit of the route that I've not been looking forward to. So it's like a double whammy. Firstly, it's just over halfway, and so all your demons start piping up at this point, saying, "Oh, can you do all that all over again?" To which the answer is, "I don't think I can." But then also, this is the point on the route where it starts to go a bit, well, to put non too fine a point on it, batshit crazy, basically. It just starts squiggling around all over the place. So whereas most of the route you feel like you've got a purpose, you're riding in one direction. At this point, we're all over the blooming shop. It felt like it was just kilometres for the sake of kilometres. Like I was no longer on a journey from Machynlleth to Conwy. I was just riding aimlessly around another forest. Yeah, I'm having to just break it down into chunks. I'm not thinking about the end. It's these forests. I blame these forests. Finally, I started getting the sense that I was nearly out of that point, and somewhere I've been looking forward to for a long time was the town of Betws-y-Coed, which is a really thriving little tourist town where I knew that I was going to be able to get decent cake, refill my water bottles and my camelback, and just have a bit of a mental break. Right then. So, 90 miles done, 35 to go. I'm absolutely delighted to have done that last bit. I don't know whether you can tell that it's been playing on my mind slightly, but anyway, there we go. I'm kind of feeling knackered, if I'm totally honest, but I've still got something left in the tank, which is quite exciting. Thinking about what's to come. What I'm slightly concerned about is the time. It's really weird, I don't know where it's gone. So in the morning, it felt like time was going really slowly. It was like, brilliant, it's 9 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock. Now it's like 3 in the afternoon. So yeah, time's getting on. I'm actually not all that far off FKT time at the minute. So, well, I think this faff thing is probably doing for me. But anyway, not going for the FKT. I think we're going, yeah. Rode out of Betws-y-Coed, beautiful forest roads, riding up into the heart of Eryri. So at this point, you're surrounded by all the biggest mountains. You've got Snowdon, or Eryri, as it's now should be known as, which is the highest point in the area. And then the next range of mountains are the Gliders, and then the next ones are the Carneths, and the Traws Eryri goes between the Gliders and the Carneths through the Ogwen Valley. I think at the time I said it was the Aberglasslyn. I don't think it is. I think it's the Ogwen Valley. Anyway, that bit had been a bit I've been really looking forward to because it was so incredibly scenic, but it got proper tough. The weather started to close in, not in any like really brutal way, but it got really dark and overcast. It was really windy. It was a little bit cold, and being surrounded by these brooding mountains, that fragile morale that you've got to nurse all the way through that epic ride, it started to go a little bit, and I definitely took a bit of a dive at this point. The riding was tough, like it was this dead straight track. It was bumpy, it was rocky, there were a million gates, and I had a massive headwind as well at that point, so that was a real low. But then, as always, the roller coaster emotions. As soon as I dropped down the Ogwen Valley, the trail got nicer, it got easier, ended up being this really flowy trail through the old slate quarries, which themselves are really forbidding, but the sun had come out. And again, the whole mentality, my whole mind frame just shifted, and it became like a pleasure again. I felt like for that moment I was going to do it. So the next few kilometers ticked off nice and easily. I knew I had one more big climb to go. Like, my head unit had been ticking off all the climbs, and I was on climb 22 out of 24. So I was riding up, my legs were buckled. Again, I was groveling in my easiest gear. And then as I got close to the top, I realized that there were still 2 more climbs to go, and they weren't going to be insignificant. Anytime you got to something technical, that was where it got really grim. And also, the trail then just turned into a bog at one point. I mean, that was not how I wanted to end my beautiful ride on my beautiful SRAM Red Axis Explore. Only in Wales, on a beautiful, dry summer, could you end up hub deep in a bog. And miraculously, when I pulled it out, it still worked fine, so that was a bonus. Anyway, at this point, I was so nearly there. The final drop into Conwy was just fantastic. Because at this point, I knew I'd done it. I just had to get down. The sun was out, the trails were good, and that feeling of exhilaration going down into the town. I mean, that's partly why these rides are so good, and they are so deeply etched into your memory. Like, yeah, it's hard, but those emotional roller coasters that I've been talking about, the highs are just so high, whether it's the start or it's like cresting a view or hitting a milestone or getting close to the finish and knowing you're going to make it. Like, those moments just make it all worthwhile.
And everybody's gotta run, and ain't nobody gonna hold you, and everybody needs someone. Don't try to go alone, don't say I never told you, when you wake up tomorrow.
Finished. 10 hours, 1 minute of riding time. That was a proper adventure. I mean, surprise, surprise, that's what the guidebook said. But oh my word, this morning just feels like such a long time ago. And we've gone through so many different places. That's properly cool. Let me hit you with some stats for the day then. Got it up on Strava. I actually got a second on a descent, which I'm pretty happy with, the Coed-y-Brenin descent. So yeah, no KOMs, but I'll take that. 7,000 calories, of energy expenditure. Average power of 172 watts. I mean, that was quite interesting actually, because although there's 4,500 meters of climbing, you can only go so fast on those hills, and I had the range of gears that allowed me to spin up at my own pace. And the descents, a lot of the time, you couldn't pedal on anyway. So whilst the climbing's super hard, it's a different type of hard. And on a long ride like that, I don't think it was any worse than if I'd done like a much flatter route where you're constantly pedaling. So yeah, 172 watt average power, not super bad. 195.94 kilometers ridden, 10 hours, 9 minutes of moving time, which is annoying because my head unit said 10 hours and 1 minute. Definitely not breaking any records. I feel like I could easily have slashed probably half an hour off that, but that still wouldn't have been breaking any records. But crucially, there was quite a lot of faff time in here, I've got to admit. So total elapsed time, 11 hours, 24 minutes. So an hour and a quarter stationary. 20 minutes of that was probably opening gates, but nevertheless, I'm still not getting any better at not faffing around. But yeah, there we go. 10 hours of ride time, 11 and a half hours total time. And I would absolutely recommend that to anyone. I think it's a cracking route through an amazing, amazing landscape. Such a rich area. I mean, I didn't stop and take in any of the cultural sites. I didn't soak up the history. I was there soaking up the views. But yeah, and I think actually to do it in a day is a great challenge. And I suggest that anyone goes and has a go at it. Or split it up into 2 days or 3 days, savour it. If you do split up into 3 though, there's not quite as many cafes as you might have thought. So you might need to do some pre-planning. That'd be my warning. I've got to say a huge thanks to SRAM and Zip for making this one happen and providing me with an awesome setup. It makes a huge difference. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And well, yeah, maybe get involved in the comments section. Let me know what you thought of this one and maybe suggest what we have a crack at next. I'm gonna go get some fish and chips.